The magnitude of 7.6 earthquake has shook the Caribbean Sea southwest of the Cayman Islands.
The tsunami advisory has now been lifted for Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands following a really powerful 7.6 earthquake that shook the Caribbean Sea.
A violent 8.0 magnitude earthquake has just struck the Caribbean Sea, resulting in numerous tsunami alerts. People in the Caribbean are bracing for aftershocks after a magnitude 7.7 earthquake hit this afternoon. Panic spreads as a massive magnitude 8.0 earthquake rattles the Caribbean, sending shock waves across the region. Tsunami sirens blare, coastlines brace for impact, and experts warn this could be just the beginning. Could this earthquake trigger a devastating chain reaction? And are we prepared for what comes next? Stay with us as we uncover the shocking details of this seismic event. A powerful earthquake has struck the region near Honduras, with seismic data confirming an immense magnitude 8.0 event. This marks the first earthquake of this magnitude since 2002, a significant geological event that has sent shock waves across the Caribbean. The quake, recorded at a depth of 20 miles, occurred approximately 126 miles southwest of Georgetown, Cayman Islands. Given its size and location, there is a substantial risk of a tsunami, prompting immediate concerns for coastal areas. Authorities have issued tsunami warnings from multiple regions, including Colombia, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Sabah, and Aruba. The Tsunami Warning Center has classified this as a major seismic event with the potential to generate hazardous waves across the Caribbean. The extent of the tsunami's impact remains uncertain, but experts are closely monitoring oceanic activity for any signs of destructive waves approaching vulnerable coastlines. Emergency services and disaster response teams are on high alert as communities in the affected areas brace for possible aftershocks and secondary hazards. Initial reports indicate that hazardous tsunami waves could reach certain coastlines within the next 3 hours, posing a threat to the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Cuba, Mexico, Honduras, the Bahamas, and Haiti. Coastal regions marked as tsunami threat zones are now under heightened alert following the massive magnitude 8.0 earthquake. The affected areas extend across parts of the Caribbean and into regions between North and South America, where the presence of large bodies of water significantly increases the risk of tsunami formation. When an earthquake of this magnitude occurs beneath or near the ocean, the potential for destructive waves becomes a critical concern. Seismologists are analyzing whether this event is associated with a subduction zone, as such tectonic settings are often responsible for producing the most powerful earthquakes. Prior to this, only minimal seismic activity had been observed in the region, with a 4.3 magnitude quake recorded the previous day. Most of the recent tectonic activity had been concentrated around Greece and the Santorini region, making this sudden rupture a major geological event. The force of this earthquake will send seismic waves rippling through the planet, with monitoring stations worldwide detecting the energy release. The magnitude 7.6 earthquake that struck southwest of the Cayman Islands on February 8, 2025, was a result of strike-slip faulting in the shallow crust near the boundary where the North American and Caribbean tectonic plates interact. This type of faulting occurs when two massive slabs of Earth's crust slide horizontally past one another, much like two rough surfaces grinding against each other. Unlike earthquakes that result from vertical movement, such as those along subduction zones where one plate sinks beneath another, strike-slip earthquakes generate lateral movement along the fault line. Seismic data indicate that the rupture occurred on a steeply inclined fault structure with movement in either a west-northwest right lateral or west-southwest left lateral direction. The ongoing motion of the North American plate relative to the Caribbean plate is a driving force behind this activity. The North American plate is gradually moving west-southwest at a rate of approximately 20 millimeters per year, a seemingly slow rate. Yet over long periods, this gradual movement builds enormous stress along the plate boundary. The accumulated stress is periodically released in the form of powerful earthquakes, such as this one. In this region, most of this tectonic motion is accommodated by the Swan Islands Transform Fault, a left lateral fault where the Caribbean plate moves eastward relative to the North American plate. The earthquake's depth, location, and faulting characteristics align closely with what would be expected for a rupture along this fault or a nearby geologically related structure. Large earthquakes like this one are not isolated incidents, but part of a long history of seismic activity in the region. Over the past century, at least 10 earthquakes of magnitude 6 or greater have been recorded within a 250 kilometers radius of this event. One particularly notable event was a magnitude 7.5 earthquake on January 10, 2018, which exhibited a similar faulting mechanism. That earthquake caused some structural damage and even generated a small tsunami, highlighting the broader hazards associated with such powerful tectonic shifts. However, because this earthquake struck in a relatively remote offshore location, the potential for widespread destruction from ground shaking was significantly reduced. To fully grasp the impact of this event, it is important to recognize that large earthquakes are not singular points on a map, but rather ruptures that span considerable distances along faults. In this case, the slip likely extended over an area approximately 140 kilometers in length and 20 kilometers in width. The sheer size of the rupture means that different parts of the fault moved at slightly different times, creating complex patterns of seismic waves radiating outward from the fault. These waves traveled through the Earth's crust, shaking the ground over vast distances and potentially influencing stress distribution along nearby faults. Understanding the physics behind these events can help demystify how earthquakes occur. Strike-slip earthquakes happen when tectonic forces cause two adjacent blocks of Earth's crust to become locked together due to friction. Over time, the slow but constant movement of the plates continues to exert pressure on the fault. Eventually, the stress exceeds the frictional resistance holding the fault together, resulting in a sudden slip. This rapid movement releases stored energy in the form of seismic waves, which spread outward, causing the shaking that is felt on the surface. The effects of these seismic waves depend on multiple factors, including the depth of the earthquake, the geology of the region, and the distance from the rupture zone. Shallower earthquakes, like this one, tend to produce more intense shaking near the epicenter because the seismic energy has less material to travel through before reaching the surface. However, in an offshore setting, much of the energy is dissipated into the ocean. When earthquakes occur near coastlines, they can pose additional hazards, such as triggering underwater landslides or generating tsunamis if vertical displacement occurs along the fault. Although this earthquake was primarily a strike-slip event with little vertical movement, even minor deformation of the seafloor can create disturbances in the water column, potentially leading to localized tsunami waves. While the earthquake itself is a singular event, its consequences ripple through both the Earth's crust and human society. Seismologists closely monitor these occurrences to determine whether they have altered stress conditions along neighboring faults, potentially increasing the likelihood of future earthquakes. Historical records and modern seismic data allow scientists to identify patterns in earthquake activity, helping communities prepare for similar events in the future. Though earthquakes remain unpredictable in terms of precise timing, understanding the underlying mechanics allows for improved hazard assessment, early warning systems, and resilient infrastructure design. In the grander scale of Earth's geological history, events like this serve as reminders that the planet's surface is in a constant state of motion. The forces that drive plate tectonics operate over millions of years, shaping landscapes, forming mountains, and occasionally unleashing destructive energy. While human lifetimes are brief in comparison to these geologic processes, ongoing scientific research and technological advancements provide valuable insights that can help mitigate risks and improve safety in seismically active regions. This is the most significant earthquake of this magnitude since 2021, and while the possibility of such an event had long been anticipated, its arrival now raises concerns over its broader impact. The epicenter is approximately 126 miles southwest of Georgetown in the Cayman Islands, and early assessments indicate a high likelihood of tsunami waves forming. Further monitoring efforts are underway, including data collection from the National Data Buoy Center, to determine whether ocean-based sensors are detecting abnormal sea level fluctuations. If tsunami mode is triggered, it will provide crucial early warning signs for communities in the potential path of the waves. Monitoring stations in the region have not yet detected significant anomalies, and no buoys appear to be in event mode at this time. However, given the recent occurrence of this powerful earthquake, updates may come quickly as more data becomes available. The situation remains fluid, and caution is advised for anyone near coastal areas. It is critical to stay away from the water and seek higher ground as a precautionary measure. The Tsunami Warning Center has issued alerts for multiple locations, marking areas at risk on the map. A tsunami threat has been confirmed for regions including Colombia, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Sabah, and Aruba, with additional areas now being included in the advisory. Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands are currently under a tsunami advisory, while regions marked with warning indicators should take immediate safety precautions. This earthquake, at magnitude 8.0, is highly significant and has likely generated a tsunami. However, conflicting reports have emerged regarding the magnitude and epicenter, with some sources indicating a 7.5 magnitude event north of Honduras. Despite these discrepancies, the USGS continues to list this as an 8.0 magnitude earthquake. Further updates will clarify the exact details, but the immediate priority remains public safety. Authorities and experts will continue monitoring the situation, and additional information will be provided as new developments unfold. Strike-slip earthquakes are among the most violent and unpredictable forces of nature, capable of tearing apart the landscape in mere seconds and leaving cities in ruin. These seismic events occur when tectonic plates slide past each other horizontally, building up immense stress over time until it is suddenly released in a devastating rupture. Throughout history, such earthquakes have rewritten the geography of entire regions, altered the course of civilizations, and inflicted unimaginable human suffering. Some of the most catastrophic strike-slip earthquakes serve as stark reminders of Earth's ever-present seismic energy and the fragility of human settlements built along these restless fault lines. One of the most infamous of these disasters occurred on April 18, 1906, when a titanic rupture along California's San Andreas Fault produced the catastrophic San Francisco earthquake with an estimated magnitude of 7.9. The ground convulsed violently for 45 to 60 seconds, rupturing nearly 300 miles of fault line from San Juan Bautista to Cape Mendocino. The destruction was immediate and widespread. Entire streets buckled as waves of seismic energy rippled through the ground. Buildings from grand mansions to working-class tenements collapsed in an instant. Yet, it was not only the shaking that doomed the city. In the aftermath, fires ignited across San Francisco, fueled by broken gas mains and exacerbated by the lack of water due to severed pipelines. These blazes burned uncontrollably for 3 days, reducing 80% of the city to smoldering ruins. The estimated death toll was at least 3,000, though many historians believe the actual number was much higher due to uncounted deaths among the city's large immigrant population. Over 225,000 people were left homeless, and San Francisco, a city that had symbolized the economic promise of the American West, was brought to its knees. Yet, from the ashes, it rebuilt, leading to major advancements in earthquake engineering and urban planning, with a disaster forever reshaping the way cities prepare for seismic catastrophes. More than a century later, in 2010, the world witnessed another horrific strike-slip earthquake, this time in Haiti. On January 12th, at 4:53 p.m., the ground beneath the Caribbean island nation heaved violently as the Enriquillo Planting Garden Fault ruptured after centuries of dormancy. The magnitude 7.0 earthquake struck just 16 miles west of the densely populated capital, Port-au-Prince, a city filled with poorly constructed buildings and inadequate infrastructure. In less than a minute, entire neighborhoods were leveled. The presidential palace, government buildings, and hospitals collapsed like fragile sandcastles, while roads split open, swallowing vehicles and people alike. The human toll was staggering. More than 230,000 people lost their lives, 300,000 were injured, and 1.5 million were left without shelter. In the days that followed, aftershocks rattled the city as survivors clawed through the debris with their bare hands, desperate to rescue loved ones. The international community rushed to provide aid, but logistical nightmares, collapsed ports, and overwhelmed hospitals turned the disaster into an ongoing humanitarian crisis. More than a decade later, Haiti continues to bear the deep scars of this catastrophe, a grim testament to the devastating impact a strike-slip earthquake can have on an unprepared nation. Further across the world, Turkey has long been at the mercy of the powerful North Anatolian Fault, a massive strike-slip fault that has produced some of the deadliest earthquakes in history. On August 17, 1999, a magnitude 7.6 earthquake tore through the city of Izmit and surrounding areas in northwestern Turkey. The earthquake struck at 3:02 a.m., catching millions in their sleep. Entire apartment buildings pancaked instantly, trapping thousands beneath layers of concrete and twisted metal. In the city of Izmit, an industrial powerhouse, oil refineries caught fire, sending thick black smoke billowing into the sky. The shaking was so severe that even ships in the nearby Sea of Marmara listed violently, while the ground surface along the fault line offset by more than 10 feet in some areas. Officially, over 17,000 people were killed, though experts suspect the true death toll may have been over 45,000. More than 250,000 people were left homeless, their livelihoods buried under rubble. The Izmit earthquake was a stark reminder of the seismic danger looming over Turkey, prompting sweeping reforms in building codes and emergency preparedness. India, too, has suffered the wrath of strike-slip earthquakes, particularly in the 2001 Pudge earthquake, a devastating magnitude 7.7 event that struck the western state of Gujarat on the morning of January 26, India's Republic Day. The earth convulsed violently as the Kutch Rift Basin fault ruptured, sending shock waves across the subcontinent. Entire villages were wiped out as poorly constructed homes crumbled instantly. Pudge, a historic town with deep cultural roots, was devastated beyond recognition. The death toll exceeded 20,000, with hundreds of thousands more injured. Ancient temples, centuries-old palaces, and modern infrastructure alike collapsed under the force of the quake. The Indian government launched one of the most ambitious reconstruction efforts in its history, not just to rebuild homes but to implement strongest seismic-resistant structures, ensuring that future generations would be better prepared for the inevitable next quake. New Zealand, a nation built atop multiple fault lines, experienced one of its most complex seismic events on November 14, 2016, when the Kaikoura earthquake unleashed chaos across the South Island. Measuring 7.8 in magnitude, this earthquake defied expectations by rupturing over 20 separate fault lines in a cascading sequence, something rarely seen in seismology. I'll keep tracking this situation as it unfolds, so be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for the latest updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, everyone.